Based on what you're saying now, and this is, I hope it doesn't put you on the spot too much. I'm just genuinely curious. Like if you had to choose between like a pure like cane sugar soda and a diet soda, what would it be now?
This is one of these like unwinnable things, right?
I know.
Right.
Just curious, like where are you now?
I don't know what you would do in that situation. I don't drink either, but what I will tell you is this. If you look at something like honey, the choice is very clear, right? Because I think that the goal is to create products for humans or to create like an industry ethos where people don't have to make that choice.
Yeah.
What if you had a soda or a drink that was sweetened with honey? Well, then you're looking at a completely different situation because there are natural sugars. And I think that the mechanism here is that there are so many plant compounds in honey or even maple syrup that affect the gut flora. And I think the mechanism has to do with dysbiosis and ultimately with lipopolysaccharide. And I've shown this in, I've done some tweets about this on X. It's kind of complicated, but if you look at sugar, pure sugar versus apple juice, pure sugar increases endotoxin in the human body, probably because you put a bunch of glucose or fructose into the human gut, and there's nothing there to kind of check the overgrowth of bacteria. Gram-negative bacteria propagate, and you're going to get more endotoxin, lipopolysaccharide, which is a gram-negative bacterial cell wall component, into the blood circulation. But you give someone apple juice, and that doesn't happen. And so this has actually been shown across multiple like sugar versus fruit, and honey does the same thing. You can give, I think it's an animal study, but they gave animals two types of sugar two types of honey and processed sugar, and the honey actually mitigated the rise in lipopolysaccharide that animals get when you feed them processed sugar. So I think it's something with the numerous polyphenolic and other plant compounds in the honey or apple juice or watermelon juice, and these serve to just probably modify the way that gut flora populations change in the human gut. Totally, that makes so much sense.
I have never, and I mean, I could be wrong, but I've never ever seen a study where the benefits of honey do not prevail. Like honestly, like in every single thing, it's looking at honey versus other fruit versus polyphenols. With like every single time, without fail, honey wins.
But honey has calories, Thomas. So maybe we shouldn't eat it. It's like, wait, it's more complicated than calories. And so, I mean, I think this is what it comes down to here is convenience. So this is where the processed food manufacturers get us. They get us with convenience because look, it's one thing for me to sit in a studio with you and say, the answer is simple. Just go to the grocery store, eat a chicken breast, eat a steak, eat some salad if you want. I don't eat salad, but if people want to eat salad, great. Eat a sweet potato. But I think people say, I don't have time for that. I work, I have kids, and I get it. Like we have constraints on our time. And so I think that the way that these processed food manufacturers, and I will say David Bar is a ultra processed food manufacturer now. I don't think that they're doing the right thing. And I think that many, and they're not the only ones, like this idea of protein Pop-Tarts and protein cookies, this has exploded. Like these companies are very popular now, but it's convenient. And so that's where we get people. We say, oh, well, we're going to give you a slightly less expensive option. They're still expensive, but we're going to give you a reasonably priced option that is convenient for you. And that's going to be helpful for you. When in fact, it's just kind of a Faustian bargain. Like, no, we have to really fight against the convenience. But I know that the thing is that humans are just programmed to be convenient. And so we always go for this. And so like I said, I think that my hope is that more companies will just put products in the market that are better for humans. I mean, that was really the intention. And I never thought I would be in this position, but that was why I created Lineage. Like I wanted this might sound weird, but I wanted to like push back against the processed food companies somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
And give people like, okay, here's a convenient option that I actually believe in. Like when you look at the calories per gram on like air dried steak from Lineage, like, or just a lean jerky or even a chicken breast, they're just as good as a David Bar. And it is a micronutrient rich food that my sense is like, it's certainly going to leave you less hungry, more satiated long-term. So like, I think that we need more options for people. So I hope someone will create, like you said, a drink that has honey, right, as a sweetener that doesn't mess up your gut flora. And you won't have to make the decision between Diet Coke and sucrose Coke, right? And that's what I'm trying to do with like the ability that I have now to create. I want to create companies and products that give people a convenient option that's better, because I think without that, we're screwed, right?
For sure, man.
There's no way. What do you do?
Do you think that heating and processing honey denatures it. Like, for example, like if you were
Yeah.
so if you were to try to make honey into a powder that you could bake with or something, it would probably break it down.
I mean, somewhat, but I would bake with honey powder before I would bake with processed sugar.
I mean, ditto, that's what I'm like. But
Yeah, that's the best possible option, you know?
Yeah.
Because
it's not necessarily the macronutrient composition of it. I mean,
No,
so if you were to take honey and zap all the antioxidants and polyphenols, and you were just left with even the bare sugars of it, like trehalose and fructose, and like, you don't think that it probably would still be better than a completely refined sugar, but not the same, right?
Yeah, not the same, but like you look at things like molasses. Molasses is along the chain of purification of sugar, right? From a sugar cane. Molasses is valuable for humans. Molasses doesn't have the same outcomes that a processed sugar does. So at some point and molasses has been heated is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like honey, the thing I like about honey is that it hasn't been heated. You find a raw organic, and this is, Lineage makes a honey, and I wanted to make a raw organic glyphosate-free honey. So if you're looking for honey, try and find something that's tested for glyphosate, this herbicide. And so it hasn't been heated at all. Like you can get a source of carbohydrates. I mean, we were just drinking honey post-workout together, and you were telling me that you like honey in your diet now. So honey's great.
I would consider it a staple, legit.
Right?
It's a staple.
It's a staple.
Because like I'm very deliberate about my carbohydrates, and like realistically, like there's not a whole lot on that list that I would eat, right? Because I'm not a big grains guy. Sweet potatoes are great, but they do start to get to me after a while, right?
How so?
If I start eating them like consistently, like after like 2-3 weeks of doing, 100 grams a day or, worth of carbs a day of sweet potatoes, I start feeling distended. I start feeling like it's kind of going the other way for me. I start retaining water. So, I mean, I've just found that maybe we're not designed to just like consume that many sweet potatoes, right? Like, cause I'm trying to get to maybe 200 or 300 grams of carbs on some days, just to like, I'm really trying to push it and test it, right? You've challenged me on some of this stuff, and I'm like, okay, like I will test it. I will go high carb on some of these days. And and I feel good doing it. But certain foods, like if I try to get 200 grams of carbs from sweet potatoes, that's not a pleasant thing, right?
It's a lot of sweet potatoes.
Yeah. So like, okay, honey makes it pretty easy for me to get there. And it's been a staple for me because it's a very deliberate way for me to get to a certain, intake that I want to test, right?
There's a tribe, I think they're African. They're Mbuti, Mbuti. They might be pygmy origin. At certain times of the year, they have 70+% of their calories from honey. And they remain metabolically healthy. Yeah. And again, I don't think humans need to do that. That's a lot of calories from honey. But when I was with the Hadza, I forget if we've talked about this in the past, we came upon a hive of bees while we were hunting with them on like a long day of hunting. And within a minute or two, they had a bow drill out. They were smoking out the bees, and they had the hive down, and we were eating, honeycomb with larvae and honey in it. And I mean, the Hadza have been studied multiple times for cardiovascular health and stuff. So I think there's probably a window and a context. You're very active for people in terms of how many carbohydrates they need. But I think that for most of us, some amount of honey carbohydrates in the diet, maybe it's a tablespoon or even less per day, can be very interesting, very enjoyable, and probably even health promoting, especially if it's a raw, organic, glyphosate-free honey. Yeah. So I think it's a great thing. And the reason I say that is because people fear calories and they fear sugar, but just like all calories are not created equally, not all sources of sugar are created equally. The context matters so much.